In the name of God, hello and welcome. I'm Ali Zamadadi with the latest coming to you live from the Iranian capital, Tehran. The Iranian president says the resolve and steadfastness of Iran's labor workforce have prevented enemies from achieving their goals against the country, inaugurating a number of industrial projects in the southeastern province of Kerman via video conference. President Hassan Rouhani said, "Our people have been under tough U.S. sanctions and difficult conditions for the past 3 years. However, the steadfastness and determination of our laborers, entrepreneurs, and farmers have prevented the enemies from reaching their goals." Washington reimposed its sanctions on Iran in May 2018 after unilaterally withdrawing from the 2015 nuclear deal, also known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action between Tehran and the world powers, which was also endorsed by the United Nations Security Council. On Wednesday, leader of the Islamic Revolution Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei highlighted the significance of protecting the rights of laborers, calling on Iranian employers to take care of workers and their families. Iranian Health Ministry spokesman Kianush Jahanpour said on Thursday that the total number of coronavirus cases in the country has reached 103,135, while over 82,000 people have recovered from COVID-19. Jahanpour said with 68 new deaths in the past 24 hours, the death toll from the virus has reached 6,486. Unfortunately, he said, Iran registered 1,485 new cases since the day before. Jahanpour also put the number of those who have recovered from the viral infection at 82,744. Iran has taken numerous steps to stop the spread of the disease, ranging from closing down schools and universities to cancellation of cultural and religious gatherings. It is also constantly disinfecting and sanitizing public places. Now, health authorities have raised the alarm over the coronavirus pandemic in the Gaza Strip amid critical shortages of drugs and hospital supplies.
The Palestinian Ministry of Health has raised the alarm over the coronavirus pandemic in the blockaded Gaza Strip. On Wednesday, the Ministry of Health announced that 3 more people have been infected with the deadly coronavirus. The new cases were discovered at a quarantine center.
Yesterday, we discovered 3 new cases among people who were in the quarantine centers. One of those cases was a person who tested negative 2 weeks ago. We are trying our best to keep this deadly virus from spreading in Gaza because our health system will not be able to handle large numbers of infections.
Gaza has the lowest number of infections in Palestine due to strict measures by the authorities in the tiny enclave. The Palestinian NGOs network, which represents over 140 Palestinian civil society organizations, has warned of dire humanitarian situation in the impoverished seaside sliver.
The situation in Gaza prior to the coronavirus pandemic was extremely dangerous and disastrous because of the Israeli blockade. Shortage of international donors and political rift have also worsened things.
Gaza's hospitals and clinics are already struggling to provide health services due to lack of medical equipment. Hundreds of medical devices, including ventilators, are currently out of order due to lack of spare parts.
There are between 55 and 80 hospital ventilators in Gaza, including some mobile units. There are ventilators that are not fully working. Some 30 ventilators need spare parts and they are not available in Gaza, like many other hospital equipment that need maintenance and spare parts.
Hundreds of Gazan patients have already lost their lives in recent years due to the Israeli regime's inhumane practices. Experts say if a major outbreak of coronavirus hits Gaza, it would be a nightmare and a major catastrophe. The blockaded enclave already suffers from critical shortages of drugs and hospital supplies. Ashraf Shanan, Press TV Gaza.
Now, Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif has offered congratulations to Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa Kadhimi on the creation of a new cabinet in Iraq. Zarif's tweet on Thursday said, "Congratulations to Prime Minister Kadhimi, his cabinet, the parliament, and most importantly, the people of Iraq for success in forming a new government." Iran always stands with the Iraqi people and their choice of administration. Kadhimi formally took office early on Thursday after parliament approved a partial cabinet taking the reins amid a fiscal crisis and a health pandemic. The Iraqi parliament, however, rejected Kadhimi's nominees for trade, culture, justice, agriculture, and immigration, and did not vote on the sensitive oil and foreign affairs posts, delaying them for another session. Kadhimi was nominated in April, months after his predecessor Abdul Mahdi stepped down, the first time the premier has resigned before the end of his term since the US-led invasion of the country in 2003. Iran's Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif and his Uzbek counterpart discussed the latest issues in the bilateral relations between the two countries. In a phone conversation on Thursday, Zarif and Abdulaziz Kalimov talked about a range of issues, including mutual ties between Tehran and Tashkent, especially transit issues. The outbreak of the coronavirus and developments in Afghanistan were among other topics the two ministers discussed. Zarif also expressed sympathy over the recent deadly floods in the Central Asian country and offered condolences to the government and people of Uzbekistan, especially the families of the victims. On Wednesday, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani and his Uzbek counterpart discussed ways to enhance bilateral ties and cooperation amid the global fight against COVID-19 crisis. And finally, as people mourn the death of over 250,000 people killed by the coronavirus, new weapons are being deployed to fight it. But what are these weapons? Some say they could even be more dangerous than the virus itself.
According to information recently leaked here in Britain, not all the government's advisors are leading scientists. Among them are data specialists and a member of a multi-billion-dollar company working for a UK intelligence agency. This has stoked fears that surveillance companies have seized an opportunity presented by the pandemic.
If only a few months ago we'd been asked to download an app that would report all our movements back to the government, would we have done it? It sounds like something out of George Orwell's 1984, but that is exactly what the UK government is going to be asking people to do in the post-COVID-19 era.
The UK's Health Secretary has announced that the piloting of a contact tracing app has begun on the Isle of Wight.
The aim of Test Track and Trace is to hunt down and isolate the virus so it's unable to reproduce. And crucially, Test Track and Trace allows us to take a more targeted approach to lockdown while still safely containing the disease.
Britons tired of the lockdown and afraid of contracting the virus are being encouraged to do their bit and participate so life can go back to normal. But is this just a very efficient short-term solution, or will it have long-term implications?
Although some people might say, well, in fact, they already know a great deal about it anyway. When they say they mean the government and the security services. It adds an extra bow because what you don't get necessarily from your smartphone normally is the people that you are meeting with. Whereas in this case, if the Bluetooth is switched on and identifying who your contacts are, that, of course, can be extremely useful for intelligence agencies. And intelligence agencies could indeed argue, and no doubt behind the scenes some will be arguing, that this app that is being proposed for contact tracing in respect of the coronavirus outbreak and general panic over that could, of course, be useful, as they would argue, in saving lives in the future, were that to be used, for example, to trace contacts of a terrorist or other security suspect.
London is one of the most surveilled cities in the world, with 500,000 cameras watching us every day. Citizens and rights groups are fighting back, but what are they up against? What's happening in Israel could predict Europe's future. Tel Aviv has spent decades honing its ability to monitor the movement of every citizen and the Palestinians, on the pretext of tracking down criminals and terrorists. Its technology is described as the most sophisticated population management system on the planet, used to spy on 4 million people without their consent. So the question is, will these new tracking tools be a gateway to expanded surveillance in Europe and beyond? And will Big Brother be willing to discard his new tool once the pandemic passes? Bianca Rahimi, Press TV, London.
Well, that's it for me now. Thank you very much indeed for staying with us. Join us again tomorrow for the latest. For now, goodbye.